All right, this is the tutorial for these bottle vases. So these bottle vases are made with a slab, and you can see that the design goes all the way around. There's a seam right there, but I've decided to celebrate the seam. I also went off a little bit with my line, so I'm going to have to fix that. As you can see, I'm kind of like trying to get the line back in there. I don't know that I'm going to worry too much about that right now, though, honestly. If it really bothers you, you could put some details in there, but I'm going to be okay with that. So this is what it looks like all the way around. It takes a little patience because you do need to let your slabs dry as usual, but this is what they look like in the end. All right, so let's get started. Put that over there, and I'm going to bring over my slab. So this is about 3 pounds of clay, and I have let it sit out, and I prepped one side of it already, and I'm going to just quickly re-rib this side. I already did this on both sides, but when the slab sits around and it gets wrapped, sometimes it gets plastic marks in it, so I like to go back in. Dropped my sponge. All right. So this is nice and smooth. Your slab that you use, we want it a little bit skinnier than the thickness that we normally get off the slab roller. So I'm actually going to move this slab to my board, and I'm going to roll it out a little skinnier. I can adjust the slab roller for you if you would like me to, or you can take your slab and roll it out by hand with a large rolling pin. Notice that when I roll, I am not going all the way to the edge. If you go all the way to the edge, your edges get too skinny. And I'm rolling to about 1/4 of an inch. Almost there. All right. This is also making your 3 pounds of clay a lot bigger, which is great. You can make 2 of these if you like. It's nice to give them away as gifts. They're super easy to make, but very impressive when you give them away as a gift. All right, so we are ready to go. I'm just going to flip that over one more time. Make sure I'm prepped and ready to go. All right, so this is about 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch. That's what you want. This goes. And if you get a pencil, it's about the thickness of a pencil. So you see that? There we go. All right, I have cut these templates for you, and I cut one is a little bit bigger than the other. So I've got 2 templates. I've got one that's 4 by 10 and one that's 5 by 10. This one's a little bit shorter. It looks really small, but by the time you put your top and your bottom off, it'll grow taller. So you have an option to do this one, or you have the option to do this one, which is the 5 by 10, and that's the one that I used when I made this guy. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead. I like the 5 by 7, and remember it's going to shrink as it dries, so I'm going to go for the 5 by 7 again. I'm going to lay this down, and I'm trying to make the best use of my space. I'm going to need a top, a bottom, and a little strip for the neck. So I'm going to lay this down, and with my rubber tip tool, I'm going to just lightly mark where this is so that I can put my texture in there. Very lightly. You don't want to make much of a mark at all. All right, so now I know where the body of my vase is going to be, and you can use any texture you want. Any of these. You can go all the way up with texture. You can decide that you want to do some stamps. You can use a large rolling pin. However you want to make this happen is great. I think I'm going to use this guy, and I want my clocks. I want my clocks to go around properly. So I'm going to roll it this way so that my clock, I guess these clocks are sort of all different, so it doesn't really matter, which is great. So I'm going to cut this in half. I'm not cutting to the line, but I'm going to cut part of this off and save this to the side. And that way I'm just putting texture into the piece that's going to be the body of my flask or my bottle. So I'm going to go like this, and we always roll from the barrel. So I'm pushing down and rolling across. You can see that my hands are in the middle, and I'm just trying to be as even as possible. It goes one direction, and then you have to stop. I want to release this. I'm going to release from one side and then release from the other side. There we go. Because when you roll your texture into it, it does get stuck to your board. All right, I'm going to get my template. I'm using the 5x10, and I'm going to lay it down. I'm sort of looking to see where the best place for this is. And I use a ruler when I cut so that I get a nice straight line. You want these vases to sit flush to your table, so a ruler is very important. That. I turn my board because I'm right-handed, and if you're right-handed, you should always be cutting on the right side. If you're left-handed, you should always be cutting on the left side. So I see people cutting in very strange ways sometimes, and it's not a good idea. These edges here are going to be cut at a bevel, so watch carefully how this goes. I'm going to cut this side first, and I'm going to go kind of a diagonal, like a 45-degree angle. And I'm not even using the ruler so much, but I am bending this at a slight angle, 45. And the same angle that I use here is going to be used on this side as well. Also cutting at a 45-degree angle. There we go. What the 45-degree angle cut does is it gives you this really nice bevel on both sides. There it is, so that we can connect this slab. So I'm going to move these scraps out of my way. In general, I don't think that you should ever ball up your scraps until you know you're 100% finished with them. I'm going to score and slip both sides. There we go. And then I'm going to start creating my oval. So first I'm just going to connect. And I'm going to change cameras so you guys can see a little better. 1 second. All right, I'm going to change to the other direction. There we go. So here's the bevel. And basically this inner edge is going to go to the center of this bevel right here. So I'm going to bring it over, and I'm just going to tack it carefully. I'm going to tack it first, and then I'm going to roll my finger. I'm supporting the inside, and I'm rolling. So that it's meeting and joining up properly. Support the inside and just roll it across. Make sure there's no air trapped in there, so give it a little pressure. There we go. I'm going to flip it over and make sure that that was rolled properly as well. There we go. Now this inside needs to be smoothed. You can see that there's seams in there. Just a little bit. I sort of dug my nail in there. All right, so I'm going to get a rib and I'm going to start smoothing the seam that's on the inside so that you can't see it. Come in a little closer here. There we go. There we go. So my seam's right there. And I'm going to support the outside and go across. You're going to try and use the small part of the rib, and I recommend a yellow rib at this point. Be really careful when you're smoothing this out on the inside that you don't get a bunch of marks. I just flipped it over so I can access the other side. And there we go. I like to go up and down as well. Once I've gone across and sealed it really well, I go up and down. I want to make sure that you can't see the seam in there at all anymore. So that's pretty good. All right, great. Okay, so that's the body, and that is finished. This is a little on the thin side. I think I over-rolled it, but that's okay. I'm going to make sure that this seam is in the center and not on the edge, okay? So I'm just going to start shaping this into an oval the way that I like it. And I'm being really careful with this seam. I'm just making sure, really, really sure that it's together and there's no air trapped in there. All right. Great. When you use a rib, make sure you use a sponge and clean off that excess clay. I'm just cleaning it up because I'm going to start cutting my base and my top. Oops. All right, so I am shaping it, making sure the bottom is lined up properly too, and whoops, out of camera, making it a nice oval. And I think that's pretty good. Happy with that oval, just like that. So I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to work on my base. Bring this camera down just a little bit. All right, I'm grabbing my other slab of clay that I put over to the side. There it is. And I'm going to make the bottom. If you want to put texture on your bottom, you totally can. I'm not going to put texture on the bottom. I'm going to put texture on the top, but not on the bottom. So I want to make sure I know which is the bottom and which is the top of my vase. So I'm looking at this guy, and I think that this is going to be my bottom. But I really want to make sure. Nope, this is going to be my bottom. Okay, so I've got my base shaped, right? And I've decided that this right here is the bottom. So I'm going to start scoring. I'm going to get my water and my serrated rib. I'm going to score this. I'm going to add a little water. And I'm going to set it down. Set it down over to the side. Look inside, okay, and make sure that you're happy with your oval that's on the bottom. I'm going to push this out just a little bit. I'm using a rubber tip tool to push the bottom out. And I just want to make sure that it's a nice oval. I'm happy with that shape. And that looks pretty good. Pull it back off. I'm going to score this. And I don't want a lot of score lines, so I'm being very careful scoring, because I don't want a bunch of score lines on the inside. Even though you're not really going to be able to see it, I still don't want it in there. A little bit of water, a little bit more water on here, and then we're going to line them up. And again, you want to look inside. I'm looking in through here, and I'm making sure that I'm happy with the oval shape. And if I'm not, I'm going to come in with a rubber tip tool and push the base out. You want a nice, even, I'll also use a paintbrush. You want a nice, even oval. Paintbrush at this point is great because I'm going to go in here and connect my wall to the base with just a little bit of water and a soft brush. Go all the way around a few times. Alright, and I'm going to cut. So I'm going to grab my knife. When you cut the base, be very careful. You want to go very slow. And you're cutting just outside of the wall. Just outside of the wall. If you go too far in, you can't really fix it. So it's better to leave too much material on the bottom. A little extra material you can get rid of. Not enough material you can't really replace. Here we go. Go really slow when you're doing this. You can use a fettling knife if you want, or you can use an X-Acto knife, whatever. Oops, I think I'm in the way here. Whatever makes it easier for you. You can outcut, and there's my base. I'm tapping it gently, and I'm going to put it on a banding wheel. I'm going to need a little piece of plastic so it doesn't stick. Like this. Transfer this over here. I just moved onto a banding wheel because it's just easier to turn. Right? There we go. And I'm also going to change my camera angle so you can see what's going on. And basically I'm just connecting and reinforcing this connection. Sorry, I'm kind of moving this around. All right, so I'm just taking my finger and I'm going around. If you see that there's too much material down there, you can go back in with your knife and cut a little off if you feel like it's too much. So maybe right here was too much, so I'm going to take a little off, but really just go tiny bits at a time. You also want to make sure that you're not pushing the shape too much and ruining your beautiful oval here. All right, there we go. Base is on.